All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Owari
Owari Monogatari, episode 6. All right.
Boy, was last episode a doozy.
Yeah, last episode, Hanakawa went and took things to DEFCON Double D.
Yep, marry me.
Ogi was thwarted temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing here, though, is that while they're gone to Oikura, and that's good, because then we can get some resolution to this, Oikura lives alone, and
Right.
Hanakawa doesn't seem to be wanting to go into the apartment with Araragi.
Yeah, she seemed to have prepped Oikura for the fact that that Araragi was coming as much as she could, but we don't know what that entailed, but it seems to drain her quite a bit.
Yeah, it seemed like Hanakawa basically just had the fatigue of the conversation that she had with Ogi, and the conversation with Oikura just kind of hit her all at once. So that's a thing.
Yep.
But yeah, just because you're here, Hanakawa, if you're not literally with Araragi, things can still go really far south.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, we're going to be starting the episode in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. Right, because you didn't tell anyone. Important question. Ah, okay. Whoa.
Wait. Yeah.
Yep, I was right.
Yeah.
I was right. Oh my gosh.
Man.
Wow. Wow.
Oh boy.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Dang. So why did they bring her there? Oh, staying with them.
Whoa.
Oh, dang. So the parents knew.
Yeah.
So they didn't have maybe a good enough case to get them away?
Probably not.
To get Oikura away from them? Oh.
Wow. Jeez.
Whoa. So she just chose this independently. It's what she was familiar with, even though it was something that was harmful. Wow. In some ways, there's a good parallel there with the Ogi. The idea that Ogi could kind of be like that kind of familiar thing for Araragi.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And even though it's something that's not necessarily healthy in the fullest extent.
Yep. Well, because especially if it's something...
setting himself up. Sorry. Go
Well, and if it's something that you really care about, you want to cling on to that hope that maybe it can change, that it can be fixed or whatever.
Right.
But there needs to come a point where enough is enough.
Oh. Wow. So we're going to get into it then this episode, because if Araragi and her are going to be talking alone and they have like kind of the full kind of picture there in front of them between their interactions and relationship of the past, then things can actually be, fully got into with regards to Oikura's past.
I think I've said it before, but the visuals for this OP in particular, like even among Monogatari OPs, I feel like it stands out.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, you're also a big Snow fan as well, so
that is true. That is true.
Whoa. Whoa, the voice acting. Holy crap. Oh, okay. Hanekawa did come in. What?
Wait, that looked like it was Hanekawa that did that, but her cheeks healed now, so... Did Araragi do that?
Yeah, that was really interesting. I'll have to go back and rewatch that.
Yeah, it must have been Araragi. Man, even after Suki. Or wait, no, this is before Suki.
No?
Nope.
Wow.
She actually said it.
Stammered it out. Oh. Yeah. Uh-huh. Wow.
What?
Wow.
Catching it out of the air?
There's no way. That was so cool.
Wow.
Hanekawa. Wow, well done. Nice. Good, Araragi. Well done.
Okay.
I understand that. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And that's... God, that's painful. Huh. Yeah. Wow. Oh.
Huh.
Oh. Wow, the voice acting is so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Very true.
That was
Hanakawa,
so
you're
good.
amazing.
Yes. Nice. I like how he's not agreeing or disagreeing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay.
And where is she now?
Not here.
Oh. Oh. Hmm.
Ugh. Yeah, that place looks all kinds of wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Hmm. If you stare enough into the abyss, sometimes the abyss stares back.
And she had to see this happening.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Hmm.
Oh. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh boy. Mm. And then you begin to feel guilty and shame with that because then you're like, oh, okay, 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 gotcha. So she was able to, stay somewhat okay. Oh, yeah, Hanakawa's got to resonate with this so much.
Mm-hmm.
This is crazy.
Yeah. Why wouldn't
Yeah,
she move?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what do you think? In some ways, that's why her mother left too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no,
Nice
it's more
and clean
complicated
and
than
empty.
that. Yeah. So I don't need to take care of myself in that regard because it's not it's not that
It's not
bad.
that big of a deal.
Jeez. God. Ugh. Oh.
Well.
I'm glad, but like a lot of this is not healthy ways of looking at it. Oh wow, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh.
Oh. Oh.
Oh.
Did her mom just die in the room?
Oh. Uh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, man. Changing
Now.
the subject.
And now. Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
So then she sees this abnormally, yeah, like
Yeah,
healthy
so you
family.
can't stand to be around it because it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Very similar to Hanakawa's personality situation.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. It's too late. Right. Whoa. Mm-hmm. Odd
Oh,
ways. Ugh. Oh. Huh. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine. Oh. Okay,
Oh, boy.
here it is. Here it is. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Oh. Right. Because they're not around.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, this voice acting is so
Mhm.
good.
Wow.
Oh. Whoa, Hanakawa. Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Hanakawa.
She knows from
Yes.
experience.
Right, right. And that's okay. Right, that's easier. It's slower.
Yep.
It's more predictable. It keeps things moving steady. Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
There's no peaks and valleys. Whoa. You overestimate happiness. Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
There's truth laced in your lies, Araragi. Oh, but yeah, this is good for her more than it is for you, and in some ways so.
Well, this is what he should have been telling himself
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the beginning of the story.
Yeah, that's what we do. Nice, Hanakawa,
Wow.
the legend. Oh. Okay.
Whoa.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, I can breathe. Jeez. Wow. My whole body like shut down. Like, gah. Like my thing I think I was worried about towards the end was kind of this thing of where if you are not yourself in a good place, it is sometimes hard to put yourself out there to help someone else who's in a bad place as well, because you can end up kind of absorbing too much, and then you end up sacrificing yourself too much for the purpose of another person. You know, only someone else can save themselves, in the same way that Hanakawa was saying that in order to be happy, you need to try to be happy.
Right.
And if you're no longer trying, then it doesn't matter how much anyone helps.
Yep.
Because
You
then it
won't
can
do it.
always get recontextualized into something else. And that was what was happening that Oikura was doing in the beginning, where she was like, oh, like, you're just trying to take the moral high ground here. Like, you're just doing this, this is your thing of like,
yeah, you're just flaunting and all
you're
that.
flaunting, yeah. And then it became a thing of where, yeah, she couldn't see it as him actually trying to help. Wow. Good stuff. All right, that was a conversation.
Yeah,
a conversation. And I won't say it again, but because I said it plenty of times, but the voice acting, from the seiyuu for Oikura,
ridiculously good.
Was 10 out of 10, top notch, perfection. Some of the best voice acting I've ever seen, and yet to me, like, I think there are times where you can hear voice acting that's almost trying too hard, trying to play a character in some ways, rather than churning up the human emotion to the point where I was having to emotionally guard myself during the episode. There are times where I can feel like I can just open myself up and be good, but based on the context of the story and the actual like voice acting, I'm like, no, I have to be a little bit careful here. Nope. This is some really heavy stuff.
Yeah, I specifically tried to not pay attention to the voice acting because I didn't want that to happen.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
so what did we get? We got Oikura telling them the full, unbridled, first-person perspective on what happened over the course of her life up until this point. But we did get a little bit of a misdirect, potentially, with her repeating that thing of, I prayed that they, my mother wouldn't disappear, but she did against my wishes. She repeated that like 7 times.
Right.
Her mother might have starved to death or just killed herself, or she killed her mother. Who knows? But there's some fishy circumstances going on there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So
can we clear up the blood thing?
Oh, right. Yeah. So the blood
you did
thing.
A good job catching that.
Yeah, I thought at first that it was Hanakawa, but then it's like no, it healed it, so it was Araragi. He reached his hands behind his back and pricked his finger with a
safety pin.
A safety pin, and then swept his finger across Oikura's cheek,
to heal her.
In order to heal her from Senjukahara's punch.
Right.
So yeah, cool, awesome, and this is before freaking the Yotsugi arc.
Stuff?
The Yotsugi stuff. So so the whole idea of Araragi and his vampire nature and not using that and stuff hasn't been brought up yet.
Right.
But that was that. I'm kind of a mess over this episode. I'm not entirely sure how I want to talk about it first and what I want to talk about, because so I think then the good place to start here naturally is that when they enter into the space here, Hanakawa does go with Araragi, which I'm very glad she did. But specifically, each character kind of gets their sequence of moments that they're dedicated to helping Oikura. But Oikura gets the lion's share of the focus with regards to not only the screen time and dialogue, but just the character stuff. Hanakawa has a couple moments, though, that need to be just shouted out individually rather quickly. One, she's very much aware of, people sometimes do impulsive things around me that I can just take little actions of my own in preparation. And nope. No throwing tea in people's faces. No throwing utensils or other kinds of things at other people. That was great.
Wonderful stuff.
And I gotta say, that was very helpful for me to have that bit of levity within the episode. That was about as heavy as it gets. Like
So that was good.
That was really good. That was appreciated. Hanakawa, you're amazing.
Hanakawa also specifically was listening, and this is the thing that I think was really good to showcase the difference between the two parties involved here. Hanakawa and Araragi being one party, and then Oikura being the other. Oikura is venting. She is verbally processing in a way that is actually rather helpful. Like, this is something that is very, very common in my experience with people who have had similar situations in the past, not similar to the details, but in terms of how it affects them emotionally in the present. They need people who are strong and present enough and willing to actually listen enough
right,
to just basically be their soundboard. Because for the most part, there are a lot of situations where you need professional help and other kinds of things that are a little bit more complicated than that. But the immediate thing that is needed is for you to just listen.
right.
Now, what's important here is that Hanakawa spends also, I would say, the most time listening comparatively to Araragi because she has the benefit of not being the direct target of a lot of the accusations and the verbiage, the language coming from Oikura is specifically either towards her past or Araragi.
Because even Araragi, how objective can he be, right? Because he was in the situation.
Right.
Whereas Hanakawa, who can be better of an objective third party than her?
She not only has a situation that's rather similar, I mean, eerily similar to Oikura.
Yep.
She overcame that situation not just because of the influence of people in her environment, but because of her response to the people in her environment. So Hanakawa has a very opportune point in this episode to say, I don't know everything. Yep. I just know what I know. And it's so perfect. It's so perfect that it leads then into probably one of the best sequences of like monologuing from Araragi, which I think that's what we should just talk about initially here.
Sure.
Because a lot of the Oikura stuff has to be kind of gone into in detail, or I would say like almost too broad to kind of cover them as topics because she's rambling. There's so much about it that is sequenced with regards to structure of, you know, she's focusing on Araragi. Okay, now she's focusing on the past. We get the reveal of stuff with, you know, when Sengoku went over to come visit.
Good call, by the way.
I am so glad. I was like, I've been going back into things with Bake specifically, and that was primarily to get a lot of the stuff foreshadowing the math classroom, you know, general, was it majority consensus or whatever it's called, majority vote or something, to get kind of that. But in addition, I kind of brushed through the Sengoku arc, and I was like, that always was a part where I was like, I guess that's not really important. Nope. That was foreshadowed all the way back then, that there was a person that kind of was basically a dark shadow. We never really had much focus on them. This is something that ties back to the idea that Araragi has some serious memory problems.
Yes. And
so there's a whole lot that can be gotten into with that. But Araragi's monologue,
So a lot of the times in stories, I feel like there will be characters that play a similar role to, say, Araragi or Hanakawa in this situation, where they're the listener for the person that's saying the things, you know?
Yes.
And whether you're talking about emotional scenes or just technical scenes where they're talking about the world building or something like that, who knows, right? Oftentimes the characters feel very disjointed in that, right? Where there's it's kind of irrelevant of who are the silent characters in that scene. It could be anybody and it would work just fine. Here, though, and this is one of the reasons why I feel like Monogatari, Nishio Isin, you're a madman. All the characters here in this scene, and there are 3 of them. It's not just a one-on-one scene, right? But there's 3 of them, and they all have different perspectives on what's going on in different ways that this resonates with them personally, past experience and whatnot.
That's true.
And Araragi's speech, it's not just the speech that he's saying because it's what Oikura needs to hear.
True.
He's saying it because it's what he has learned over the course of his journey and what he needed to hear back at the beginning of the series and before the beginning of the series.
What he needed to tell himself, what he needed to hear, what he needed to, in some ways, chant almost.
Right. And a lot of that probably as a direct result of the stuff that happened with Oikura, because, yes, as, you know, it hurt Oikura and it also did hurt Araragi. You know, enough to have him block it out and things like that.
Right. So, nothing is ever so simple as to only directly influence one person.
Exactly. You mentioned sometimes when you stare into the abyss stares back. That can have an echo. That doesn't just have to be one level of indirection.
That's true.
Right? That could be someone that stares at someone that stared at the abyss, right? You know, so...
Right. In some ways, I would say that the point of Ogi in a lot of ways is Ogi represents a personalized form of Araragi's abyss. In that if Araragi kind of has moments where the abyss basically starts to consume him a little bit, Hanakawa steps in the previous episode and kind of goes, no, I will shield you from this.
Right.
Well, Hanakawa ends up getting a little exhausted from the thing in the beginning or the end of the previous episode. But I liked in some ways because of that, Hanakawa comes into this situation where, yeah, she's willing to kind of step back and almost regenerate, a little bit to kind of be like,
yep,
just listen.
Oh, deflection. And
yep,
the fact that she
all.
caught the teacup without spilling the tea, that's okay.
You could say maybe that's a part of her being a little bit more in tune and accepting of her form,
her other form, yeah,
form and stuff.
I would
she
definitely
has that dexterity and grace and reflexes.
Yeah,
so
I will buy that totally.
But okay, Araragi's monologue. So he gets into it from the stance of that she asks him the question of whether or not her life influenced him to be happy in any way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is one of the quintessential questions of humanity, and this is something that is very difficult to answer and also very easy to answer. The idea of quintessential value, the idea of do I matter? And then there's the whole things of you're an amalgamation of atoms, electrons, and energy and physical mass, aka you matter. That dumb joke. But that's the easy answer. The difficult answer is whether or not I matter to anyone else.
Right.
And this is something I think almost every human being, at least that went through teenager years, had to ask the question at some point. If I disappeared tomorrow, would anyone care? Would anyone miss me? Or not even that. How many people would actually miss me or care? And Oikura, in some ways here, is asking a different variation on that question.
Sure.
She's asking, hey, based on that time, did any of that matter to you?
Because at that point it's not I feel like it's not so much of a thing of where I am right now, does anyone value me?
Right.
But all of that shit that I went through, is there any good that came of it? Right? Please tell me there was something. Yeah. There was something good that came out of that, because otherwise, what was it all worth? Right? Why did it happen to me?
Yeah.
Because she does all these things to try and downplay what happened to her, because, other people have worse things and whatnot, so that she doesn't have to face just how broken and brittle she is over the whole situation.
Yeah.
So, she tries to search for some kind of reassurance that there was a purpose to it,
Right. And this is probably the point in the show where I realize my own inadequacy with being able to help people in this situation here. I don't think I would have had the balls to say what Hanakawa says right here. You can't be happy because you're not trying to be happy.
No.
It's like, well, no duh, Hanakawa.
Yeah.
It's something where in so many situations you have to be very careful when you make these kinds of statements.
Oh, yes.
Nobody can make someone happy who doesn't try to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
You talk like you know everything. And it's not that I know everything. I just know what I know. You're absolutely right. Correct answer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so brittle that happiness would smash me. Now, she starts basically making this thing of saying that I don't have the capacity for happiness. Does this start to remind you of anyone?
Mm-hmm.
Araragi saying, do I actually, kind of deserve this? Is this something that I should have?
You don't need friends. Friends are overrated.
Right,
no.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I have this wonderful girlfriend, Senjigahara, and basically says, it's too late for all this. Then Araragi, the bro, going through this internal bit here that was really good, saying, then wouldn't it have been too late? Was it already too late for my childhood friend? Is everything too late? No, we can do it. This here, I think, is really important. Because in some ways, this is tying, in some ways, something that's...
It's Araragi resolving it within himself.
It's Araragi resolving it himself, but he's also tying himself not necessarily just to Oikura, but depending on how tied Ogi as a form, as a person, as whatever it is to himself, we could not just mean him and Oikura.
Yeah.
We could mean him and Ogi.
Yep.
So in this case here, saying we can do it, this is the best part of Araragi. This is the believer. This is the hero. This is the protagonist. This is his character and how he's grown all this year, basically. Well, years, if we count all the stuff before that, has come to fruition, saying there's no happiness heavy enough to rip you apart. in some ways. Like, look at the happiness he got because of Senjugahara. This terrifying whirlwind of tsundere, just goddess, wonderfulness. Is Araragi still in One Piece?
Yeah. Oh no, it's in Monogatari.
Oh yeah, exactly. Right. But there, that was good. But then he's saying happiness is neither radiant nor heavy. You overestimate happiness. This is probably one of my favorite lines in the show at this point.
Yeah.
Because it's a you statement, which means in some ways there has to be a little bit of an understanding from the I perspective. Meaning,
right.
I know a way happiness can be overestimated.
Right. I used to overestimate happiness.
Right. And the main way people speak from is their own experiences. Yep. Even if their experiences are based on observations, which have a limited aspect of perception when you're interacting with other people. So you're seeing someone else experience something and then you count it as your experience because you observed it. Mm-hmm. But saying you overestimate happiness here, just, I think that in of itself is so beautiful. And maybe this is something like I want to know how you want to go into this, Jacob, but happiness in some ways is something that Araragi very sparingly experiences in a very visual manner over the course of the show. Like, what do you think are the happiest moments in Monogatari thus far for Araragi? Like, what are some of those, like, really, really high highs? Because I don't know if he has crazy high highs.
Well, I feel like he has them, but they're all off screen. They're not necessarily part of the story. You know, like episode 12 of Baka,
yeah,
right?
There you go.
That's a really happy.
It's a really happy moment. Yeah,
doesn't continue too much past that, right? You know, all the time that he spends with Senjugahara, it'll be referenced sometimes. Right. You know, like and that happened in Koi. You know, when Senjugahara was talking about, what was it, like a family dinner or something like that. You know,
right.
Those moments are there. But he doesn't talk about them.
Right. I think what he's saying is that happiness is normal. Actually,
right. Yeah,
happiness is something that you're saying. Right, you're saying it as something that is radiant or heavy. It's so grand, and it's actually like no. It's common. And then he says there are a million ways for you to be happy. This combination of you overestimate happiness to there are a million ways to be happy gets to me in a personal way that I cannot communicate in this discussion in a feasibly short manner. Like, I'll just take the fact that I love Ultimate Frisbee so much as such a simply small thing, and yet the level of happiness it gives me, even though it's such a small thing in terms of like what it is, like what it is, not what it means to me, but what it is intrinsically. It's a sport, I run around and do a couple things and stuff. But the level of happiness I can get from just something that ties indirectly to that, that's something that's not even the thing itself. Yeah, there's a million ways to be happy. And this is a really important message, I think, just in general for an anime to get into. And then he goes on his don'ts here, which...
Yeah, don't hate happiness, don't hate the world, don't hate yourself.
Don't hate everything.
Yeah.
Like, I'll gladly take all the hate you have in you. Now, this is sounding like classic Araragi in a lot of ways. I will bear the burden. I will take upon the pain. I will sacrifice for you. Like, I'll sacrifice myself for you. The thing is, this is the line that kind of worries me the most. This feels in some ways a little bit like old patterns Araragi, where... Which
would kind of make sense given the
timeline?
Given the timeline.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, like, that is in a lot of ways... Or no, that was what he did in Neko Shiro, or Neko Kuro, not Neko Shiro.
Neko Kuro, yeah. Right. So then he's saying, love yourself. You can hate me as much as you like, as I used to love you. And I'm very happy right now. So what I have is pretty normal. Now, how much do you think he believes this statement? Because I think he believes it. Look at this guy's face. We're actually showing his face. He's serious. His brows are furrowed. He's bellowing it out. I don't think
we've ever seen Araragi's eyes shine like this before.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I still can't shake the feeling that there's a 2% aspect of this or a non-0% of this that is him having to say this, maybe, or having to believe in this in the same way, because his story parallels so well with Oikura's in some ways. Then immediately after that, Hanakawa is saying, well said.
Yeah.
Now, I want to say I'm not wholly trying to throw out this statement at all. What I'm trying to say is this is important that he says this for her, because she was earlier saying how much what he had back in like grade school when he saw their family, when he saw Aragi's family and all them, is that that looked abnormal to her. It wasn't her normal. So what he's saying is what I have is pretty normal. So it's really important that he says that. But he's got some serious problems. And I think
No, but that's the point.
Right. I think that's the point.
That's the point.
It's okay to have serious problems.
And I think
that's the point, right?
Yeah. Okay, and that's why that's why it doesn't worry me too much, the idea of him saying, give me your hate. You know? Like throw it all on me. Yeah. Because it's essentially saying you don't it's okay where you're at. Right. Like that's fine. That's totally fine, right? Yeah. You know, what I have is pretty normal. It's not some unattainable thing because I've got plenty of problems too, right? And yeah, if you hate me, that's not going to break my back. You know, like that's not that big a deal. I'd like it if you didn't, but if that helps you, great. Great. Right. That maybe is something that, as far as me as an individual, I project a little bit into this show at times, and I think that I personally have too much issues with my ego being attached to things in my environment. So when something is in my environment sending basically, if it was hate, basically the equivalent of that from me, I would essentially kind of start to turn away from it over time. And I would say that that's something that is, not healthy necessarily, but it is necessary sometimes when you're not doing really well. So I'm curious to kind of identify here whether or not this is something not whether this is something that is healthy or not, but whether it's something that is necessary or something that Aragi can handle. That's a good question. I feel like given the fact that he's facing this, right? Facing Oikura, like the fact that he's here, the fact that he's faced the whole situation, and has dredged things back up from his memory and whatnot. I think that is the sign that he can handle it. Okay, right, gotcha. So him doing this, because there are those moments I feel like in life where you feel, and you don't just feel bulletproof, but you're bulletproof in some way, right? You're on a really good day, and you know that nothing can get you down. Hanakawa's going to let you touch her boobs after this. So. Yeah, exactly. Right. Whether, and we know Aragi's not going to take her up on it, but that's the general idea, right? And then there are other times where, a butterfly will break your back, right? And Aragi knows that, one, he's not in that butterfly will break my back situation right now. And two, that Oikura is a butterfly, right? Right. That it's not Senjigahara or anything like that. Like he feels maybe responsible in a lot of ways because he didn't help her in ways that he wished he had. Sure. Right. Right. But in a lot of ways, if he is letting her vent, then that is also him making up for what he did there, not in some sort of like self-flagellation kind of way, but in basically giving her a space to breathe, right? And that he will help allow that to happen. Right. And that's a way that he can kind of be helping her now in ways that he didn't before. Right. Right. But because this is how she needs help now. Yes. But 20 minutes ago, he was a butterfly. Like when Ogi and Hanakawa were having that discussion there, his vision was getting blurry. Yes. He was starting to lose it. Right. So the idea that Araragi can go entirely from really not in a good space to in a really good space that quickly shows in some ways that it's not so black and white. It's not so cut and dry. Well, right. And I think that, and yeah, I think that's really good because one of the things that's different here is that if Ogi is the self-talk that had a purpose for being there but has gone dark, has gotten twisted, sure. Right? Sure. That is not here anymore. That's right. Hanakawa banished that with
For now.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah.
Right. You know, with the debate and with the statement.
Yes.
So I think it's and the thing is that when you're not in that state, I feel like it's really easy to stay out of that state because you're not in that state. So it's not because that state is a downward spiral, right? Once you get into it, then it can be almost impossible to get out of it, right? Because you're focusing on it, you don't see anything else.
Right.
But from the outside, it's okay. Yeah, you know, I'm good.
Yeah. But then this episode spends a good 15 minutes of it having, oh my god, Oikura give us the whole story.
Yeah.
Now, I don't even know if I have the mental or emotional capacity to go through and analyze every bit of it. Like, just honestly, it's so painful.
I don't think I do either.
I want to say I really, really like that we had the callback to Bake with having the parents be the ones that basically revealed, they themselves revealed to Oikura that they were police, they were cops. So that's how she knew about Araragi's parents. And it was something where they brought her here as a, hey, we're just going to have her stay here for a while. This is so familiar for Jacob and I. I'll just say this exact scenario is so familiar. Our parents aren't cops or anything.
No.
But there was a point where our parents were like, hey, we're going to bring in 2 kids. We're just going to have them stay with us for a little bit. We don't know how long, but we're just going to be their family for a little bit.
Yeah.
We were too young to be reasonably told why they were being brought over. And in some ways, that's really good. But it didn't help anything in a year or two because we found out pretty quickly anyway, or at least I did. And I was the oldest, so I kind of...
4-year age difference does a whole lot more when you're
that young.
You know, when I was like what 3 or 4 and you were 8.
I was 8.
Right, that makes a big difference.
So there was a lot of things where I wasn't really aware of what was going on, but then I started to kind of get hints, and I was like,
something was off.
Something was really off, and I was like, oh. And it wasn't even something where I would basically know because someone told me, like it was exposited via, you know, just character monologue. But no, it would be like in things that they would do, or in things that you hear your parents whisper, or you'd be like, oh, okay. So your idea of normal and their idea of normal clashes, and it leads to situations like this. But the idea that there are people out there that are willing to do this, even though they can't necessarily do anything in the legal sense about it. Specifically, in this case, even cops. Like, my parents didn't have any kind of knowledge of that whole area of things. Is just awesome. More power to people like that who are willing to basically open up their family to people that are really hurting for whatever amount of time they can. That's awesome.
And bless our parents, they did this kind of a thing. Like it almost became a regular occurrence. A lot of the time with the same family that the kids were from, but sometimes from other families. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up here about Oikura,
which part specifically?
So, okay, I'm going to say something here that's going to sound a little crazy. It's a goddamn miracle that Oikura is doing this well.
Oh, yeah.
So,
sure. She's fortunate, as she was saying.
Yes. So, and that is not at all to downplay her situation.
Yeah.
But if you look at her approach to the situation, the fact that she rages in vents like this, that is so good.
That is really good.
That is so good, because I will tell you, that's what allows people like Hanakawa and Araragi to say things like they say.
Right.
And for it to actually maybe take root.
Right.
Because I will tell you that, we have personal experience with stuff of similar situation, you know, people from horrible backgrounds that have been scarred in ways that
you can't even imagine.
You can't even imagine that come and live with you, and, you know,
you can't necessarily do anything to help them.
No, you really can't.
Nope.
And the thing is that it might not be as obvious why, but
Right.
The kind of stuff that Araragi and Hanakawa say here, right?
Mhm.
This is really good stuff.
Yeah.
This is really good stuff. And wow, the words may have been different, the
Mhm.
exact words, you know?
Right.
These are things that have been said both by me and by people that I know to people that were in similar situations. And the problem is that it doesn't
Nothing.
work.
Yep.
It like there are instances where it can work,
Yep.
right? And Oikura is an example of that. And that's why the fact that she's in the situation is because she's still raging against it, right? There's something about it that she doesn't accept, and her mind is still trying to reconcile what happened, right?
Right.
But oftentimes, or at least from my personal experience, what happened is it was something where, because they didn't know anything else, you can't reach them at that, because even when you see something that is normal for you and they see it as something that is starkly different than normal for them,
Yep.
they still end up going back to that place where it feels normal, in a similar way to Oikura going back to her home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
and that hurts.
That hurts. And I can't tell you how much and how many times and the tears that have been shed where I wish that I could have a conversation with those people like Araragi and Hanakawa have with Oikura here. But sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
And the thing that you were saying about how, what was it? Hanakawa was saying that like you need to try to be happy, you know, and how that is a very good line, and it's also a very
obvious line.
Obvious line, but also something that you need to be very careful with when you say stuff like that, right? Because there's what you say and there's what people can accept. And sometimes when you say something that they know but they can't accept, then it can actually cause more harm than good.
More harm,
right? Because there's this crazy level of denial that can set in where it's I can't acknowledge, I cannot let myself be pitied, essentially, right? I have to hold on to pride or whatever, because that's kind of all I have. So I will live in absolute, and I'm talking hardcore denial about the situation. Sometimes we'll even get calls from them. I don't know where they are now, but sometimes we'll even get calls from them, and it is unintelligible. And that is not just because of the drug abuse and stuff that made their minds scrambled eggs, right? Like, where there's something about it where they can't let themselves be vulnerable, and they need to keep it so that there is some sort of very easy to see through facade, even if it's just that they're doing okay, right? Because the alternative is unacceptable for them, right? And
and this is something that is not just a thing that we see in the extreme cases. This is something that actually, in a minor kind of thing, I've seen this with so many, like, just people I just slightly had good connection with. Like, slightly. And then there's opportunities in some ways, because Jacob and I have lived a very different life as the channel has grown and we've been focusing really much on this. We haven't really connected as much with people out there. When I reconnect with people from, times long past or what have you, this kind of thing is there in small doses too.
Oh, sure.
And it's that, like you said, really easy to see through facade of, oh God, you're not doing well. But I have no idea how to help you because you're not in the state that Oikura is in. And like you said, it is a freaking miracle that Oikura is in this state, because she is so she has so much pent-up energy about this. And I actually want to bring a specific line into focus here, because I think she told us why that is. Grade school interactions with the Araragi family shaped this entire thing, because she saw that at a young age. A very young age. She said 6th grade, I think. So let's assume 11 years old or something like that. It might be different in Japan, but
that was just when she started doing the math lessons with Araragi.
Well, no. Math lessons were after. Remember, I'm talking about in grade school when she was brought to the
Oh, yeah,
Araragi
yeah.
family. At that point, she said that it was too late. She had already now tarnished her normal for her family, and she saw it as wretched.
Yeah.
From that point onward, every interaction with her family she saw through a lens of what was normal in a healthier way.
Right.
So, therefore, she hated her parents. She was angry at them. She had this like rage against the dying of the light. She's like, no, I will not go quietly with this. This needs to change.
Right.
She said she acted more rebellious, and then they clamped down harder, more physical abuse. They beat her even more, and it's like, oh my God, like, but still throughout that, we see essences, maybe not essence, a semblance, if you will, of the parts in where she gave up at like seasons along the way.
Yep, and that's why she hates herself. Because all the hatred against her situation, against Araragi for showing her that her situation wasn't normal, it all stems back from this hatred of herself that she, you know, blames herself for it. That, oh, could I have done something differently? You know, like why am I in this situation? You know, all those times of weakness where she ends up giving up and giving into it. You know, like
there's a very clear difference in some ways between someone that's held captive by the future versus someone that's held captive by the past. People that are held captive by the past tend to exhibit way more shame with regards towards themselves than those that are held captive by the future. Like future, it's more about anxiety.
How can you feel shame about the future?
Well, no. But that's a very good point, though, because the idea is that shame is a thing that in and of itself can have potential healthy applications, but almost all the time, in my opinion, if it gets stewed on too long, it leads to self-hatred. And self-hatred, there is no instance, in my opinion, where it's a healthy thing. Any dosage of it just leads to all kinds of issues.
So, at one of the points when I was talking with a therapist, they mentioned to me that there was like an order of like emotions, right? And how like that, and the breach from positive into negative, and what magnitude of negative it was, right? Like a ranking of this is how bad this emotion is versus this one and all that stuff.
Interesting. Right? Okay.
And things like anger and whatnot were actually not that low. They were pretty high up there as you know, not that bad for you, right?
Yeah.
Shame, I can't remember if it was the lowest or if it was the second lowest, but it was like about as bad as it can get.
Yep.
Right. And that's the reason why I would say that Oikura is in such a good place here, because she's able to hate Araragi, because she's able to stay angry about it. Yep. There's this idea that she might be able to change it, and that she is powerful in and of herself, right? Even if she doesn't see the way out.
Right.
And in the situations that I've seen, there is none of that. There is just the attempt to avoid and cover up the shame because they can't bear to look at it, much less tell anyone else about it. And because of that, they don't get out of it.
Yeah. The anger is something that in some ways looks at the environment, regardless of whether you're attaching it to the internal environment or the external environment, looks at the environment and just is upset and rejects the way it is. Shame, basically, in some ways, is like this pulling in, like, imploding vortex where it constantly pulls everything into itself and creates this little like black hole of just sucking everything in. And it's small for starters, but the attraction to it is so dang powerful the closer you are to it. So yeah, I'm really excited to almost get in depth with you with the conversation of, I want to hear this order of hierarchy of,
I can't remember off the top of my head what it was.
Caustic, toxic emotions that lead you into like really nasty places.
Oh no, that's it. Shame is the second worst. Despair is the worst.
Oh, despair is an emotion?
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
So
despair
I think,
is so bad for me, I don't even call that an emotion.
And, well, but that goes to show how bad shame is, right? I think what if I recall correctly, what the therapist said is that the reason that shame isn't the absolute worst is that the way that it can potentially be helpful is that if you realize that it is there, it is something that is so awful that if it creates a response of trying to get it out, then that can be helpful.
Because it's not subtle. once
Right,
it's
it is not
aware,
subtle.
once you're aware of it, you then go,
Yep.
oh, and
Right.
then gotcha.
And,
okay,
and that's like
that's
and
cool.
that's like the only instance where it can actually be helpful, right? Like and it's to immediately get it out, right? But if it stays for any length of time, it can be awful, and it can then go to despair.
Maybe that's also a really brilliant point of having the story eventually shift to a point where she's willing, Oikura, to have them enter into her place of vulnerability.
Yeah.
To have them actually go into her apartment and for them to see her in this state and in this place. Because when she came to the classroom, she was pretty put together.
Oh, yeah.
And you saw instances of little parts where you're like, oh, she's not doing well. But for all intensive purposes and just looking at her, yes, she looked fine. And then Hanakawa comes in here and saying, you look great. And she does the, oh, really? Like, I look great here? And then Hanakawa kind of explains what she meant by that.
Yeah.
And as, like, this is such a good episode.
And even then, Oikura mentions, well, hey, at least this place is clean, right? There's this idea that, well, and that's why she left the apartment, not just because she didn't want to deal with it herself, because who would?
You mean the house from where she used to live?
Well, there was the house, and then when they divorced, she said there was no, I guess it was a house, yeah.
Well, I think was it that because I think what it was did they move or did they stay in the same house?
No, they moved.
Oh, right, because they left this town, right? Because they lived here.
Yep,
they left.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But is in my mind is that it's that reminder. It's the reminder. It's the thing that if she stays there, then she can't deny to herself that all of this stuff happened and all of the feelings associated with that. Much less she would never want other people to see that. Yeah. So, but here, and granted, it took a lot of work to even get to this point, right? Not just an episode amount of like, oh yeah, talk to Oikura, to actually getting here, but also just Hanakawa going and talking to her and, trying to smooth things out and whatnot. But even then, it has to be this is the pristine, empty, but clean, room.
There's a lot of good stuff from her kind of having these whispering moments of realizing that, that they were able to survive this whole thing. But then she repeats over and over and over again that I prayed that my mother would not disappear, but then against my wishes, she did. Do you think she did something to her mother? How do you think her mother disappeared, quote unquote?
So whether she actually did it or not, I don't know. I think there's the possibility that she did, but even if she didn't, I feel like a lot of the times in stories there can be this tendency, not that I think that is in any way the case in Monogatari, but I know that for me, sometimes I would, like way back when, I would rate things on like how tragic is the backstory kind of a thing. And I will just say, if you see your parent dead, that will F you up, right? Again, talking from knowing people that had that happen. So I think there is a possibility that Oikura locked her mother in the room, boarded it up and all that stuff and everything.
So she wouldn't have to see
her, right? But, and the fact that she did leave food out there, I think that is maybe how she was trying to justify it within herself,
Yes, but we did also hear her say that her mother stopped eating.
Yes.
Meaning that she was probably bringing the food
and it just wasn't getting eaten.
So I want to put it out there that she's blaming herself for this. She did not kill her mother,
right?
But she blames herself in that she knew that her mother was starving and she couldn't solve it.
Yep.
So her mother probably starved to death, in my opinion. That's my guess, that she starved to death in the room because she didn't eat.
Yep.
And then Oikura just didn't look hard in the room because at some point she realizes, oh, yeah. And then she moved houses. Why did she move houses? Well, there's a body in there and it's starting to stink.
Yeah. Well,
and
whether or not she, and I think it's very, very, very possible that she did see the body.
Oh, yeah. She just selectively totally removes it from her memory.
In the same way, there's nothing in there. There's nothing in there.
Right.
Nope.
In the same way that Araragi seems to have some kind of memory gaps in his issues of past-related stuff as well.
Yeah. I will say, though, it did focus on her chopping the cucumber with the knife quite a bit, so there is the possibility that she did kill her
Okay.
mother. Like there's like in my mind there's
Okay.
the her mother is actually dead, which I'm almost certain is the case,
Yeah.
right? And then
How
mother-
she died.
how she died, whether it was starvation on the mother's part, starvation of Oikura, like maybe it started out as the mother, and then eventually Oikura just couldn't bear to look at her mother as she was like starving herself to death, so she just locked the door, right?
Right.
You know, all right, you're staying in there anyways, I'll just lock the door, you'll stay in there, whatever, right? And then there's something less, active
Something less
violence,
savory.
yeah.
And then there's also the possibility that she's alive. And
Yes.
Oikura is so traumatized about this instance that her story has all kinds of lies in it,
Mm-hmm.
and we shouldn't be taking everything she's saying
Right, it's
as
an-
literally as possible.
An unreliable narrator.
Yeah, which is something that we have been dealing with in Monogatari for a while now.
With
So-
actually, seemingly, both of the other characters in the
Yes.
room here.
That's true.
Sengoku isn't here as well, but she also got called, so that kind of like we kind of touched base with everybody
Sure,
that has
sure.
been an unreliable narrator.
So there's a town hall group of people that are going to be coming by to visit her. So in
Mhm.
some ways, I think what we're showing here is that she's probably going to be okay. However, I wanted to bring up this, and this was something that I wanted to bring up as a thing, is that there are a couple points in which Oikura avoids topics of conversation. One, the fate of her mother. She
Yep.
shifted things rather quickly there. Two, once then the conversation ends with regards to Aragi saying what I have is pretty normal, she then goes, hey, can you guys go home? Soon the people from the town hall will come.
Mm-hmm.
Then it covers her face while she's
Right.
saying this, which means she could be lying. Two, it is showing something hanging above her on the ceiling.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the way they could make this really, I mean, really dark is the idea that,
Uh-huh.
yeah, while they think they're doing well here,
Yeah.
there is
Okay.
so
that-
it's the light thing above them there.
Right,
It's-
right,
It's
right.
hanging actually quite low, so it
well,
wouldn't
but there's
actually-
also the
but there's
pipe
the
up
pipe
there.
there's
like,
the pipe up
like
there.
there's plenty of
There's plenty of ways in which they could do this, and I wanted to say that these whole things of I don't want me to see them see me arguing with you. She didn't name anyone specifically. This is one of those situations and scenarios that is very easy to make a convincing lie with, and as someone who has their own kind of personal bullshit detector with regards to lying, this one is going off for
God.
me a little bit. And then if you go to the OP, this is the part that I was waiting to go back into. The OP here, there's the part at the very end where they wrap the scarf around each other, and it's them being together, and it's wholesome there.
Mhm.
I don't think this is what's going to happen. I think there's about a 1 in 10 chance of this happening,
Well,
but
I
it
will-
is shown in such a way that
yeah.
could be like
Well,
a noose being wrapped
So
around
so
her
here's
neck.
another thing I'll bring up. The whole idea of going and coming back day after day,
Mhm.
that feels very similar to Senjikahara being like, I'm not going to trust you,
Right.
by yourself. So
And I think that's what Hanakawa's
Yes.
doing here. Yes, which
also,
is good.
Also, there was a step ladder in the room the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So whether or not that was why she wanted them to leave, whether or not she does that, that is something that has been on her mind.
Right. Was there anything in this conversation that you feel like was left lingering as that actually hurt Oikura more than it helped, and they're just not seeing it properly?
Well, that's a not really. Like,
Yeah.
like pretty much everything that happened seems to help a lot. It was something that definitely hurt for Oikura to hear and all that stuff.
Right.
But it very
But it
much
seemed to go really well.
It seemed to go really well.
Right.
So there's always the possibility that it seemed to go really well because she maybe was losing the energy to even contradict kind
Sure.
of a thing. You know, like
Sure.
that is a possibility.
Yeah, she's one person and they're two, so it is
Right.
it is that. Yeah.
But if it's not that, then I think it went really well.
Really well,
Like
yeah.
like this.
Right.
It would be great if
Yes.
situations like this could always be resolved.
I
this
agree.
nicely.
Yeah, that's why I was saying
You
1
know?
in 10. So there's a 90% chance, in my opinion, that we're good.
Yeah.
We're going to be moving on in a good way from here on out.
Who knows?
Yeah.
that might have actually been the thing that stopped her. Also, I want to point out,
Sure, that she was maybe thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they also did drop the Owari part this
Yep.
episode. Like,
Mhm.
Owari is end,
Yeah,
right?
we get it.
But-
yeah,
But they mentioned that here.
with regards to her story.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. Hey, we can have good endings though. So
Yep. We can.
y'all, this was an episode, and if this is the last kind of bit for the Sodachi Lost stuff, there, like, awesome.
Oh God.
What's next then?
If that's
What's
how it
next?
ends, Sodachi lost.
I think in some ways though that doesn't have to be something that's negative.
I don't think it has to be. No, definitely not.
No, I
And-
think in
and-
some ways it's more likely going to end in a positive way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay.
We'll see. We'll see. The process, in some ways, though, for her getting better, is not going to be as final and as definitive. Though it will take lots of time.
Yeah.
So
This is if everything did go well here, this is the beginning of something
Mhm.
new, not the end of the demons being faced.
right.
Yeah.
So. Y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and long discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there, and any level of support gets you access to our Discord where you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general, and you can also talk with Jacob there about his sci-fi novel.
Yep. Wrote a sci-fi novel. It's called Battle Lines. It's really cool, and it's on Amazon if you want to check it out. Link in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb,
I'm Jacob.
and we'll see you all
Next time.